Hi everybody, happy Friday. Jeff Long, OC Creative Finance. I want to make this really fast. Subject to. So what is a subject to? What is a subject to? Subject to pretty much is another creative way to get a home sold or bought. And it's not assuming, it's a subject to where you're actually the mortgage staying in place. You get the deed and the loan stays in that seller's name and you make the payments. You get a servicer to take over and make the payments. If not, you foreclose everything you paid for your down, your monthly, fixed up, taxes, everything you paid. If you miss a payment, it goes back to the seller. So subject to, it was like, what is that? It's assuming. It is not assuming. It's totally different. Assuming is where you have to qualify for it from the bank and do all your taxes, show them that, show your pay stubs, W-2s, long process. Subject to is just taking over. So for example, let's say a home was selling for $300,000. So if it's selling for $300,000 and the value is really like around $275K, so if it's $275,000, that's the real value. But the person's like, man, I want the highest bid, because all sellers think their home is more than it's worth. We don't dictate. Realtors don't dictate. Nobody dictates the price but the market. So you have to show comparables. Go to that listing and say, hey, look, see this house right here? Yours doesn't have a pool and you want 300. This one has a pool and it's 275. So you actually take the seller there to show them the comps. So let them determine their comps. They'll say 300, but it's not worth 300. So, but in the subject to, we will be gladly give them more money for their home, 300K, and the subject to deal. Because as long as we have the terms, I will give you full price. Because in the long run, you'll get all the appreciation, depreciation. You get in there, you don't have to run your credit, you don't have to run anything, and you can buy more of these. Even if you borrow money on OPM, other people's money, you can borrow money and get in there and keep it in this endless. You could buy as many as you want. Whereas if you try to buy a traditional way, how many of these could you buy for 300K? But you can't buy one a year. Well, with subject to, I can buy an endless amount, right? I don't believe in sky's the limit. I believe in space is the limit, right? There's no limit to that for subject to. So usually you're benefiting these people from getting the full price, and they're saving. Why would a seller sell subject to? Well, number one, I would think capital gains. Capital gains. They still have to pay taxes on this, but guess what? It's spread out because now there's a monthly. It's a monthly. So their capital gains are spread out. Instead of selling this for 300, by the time you subtract escrow, title, realtor buyer fees, realtor seller fees, capital gains, it could be 10 to 20%. You're not going to show the money. So if you sell it subject to for 300K, this person, the seller, gets stretched out capital gains. So now they made 300K on their property. Long as this person, the buyer's making their payments, you're getting a really good deal for that. So that's number one, capital gains. Number two is the full ask. So you're getting the full ask at 300K. You're getting your full ask, 300K. There's no negotiation. They say, yeah, I'm always, for me, as an investor, I'm always going to be the highest bidder, no matter what I can do, as long as it makes sense for me. I'm not just going to throw out every single deal and say, oh, I can always give everybody the full ask. It has to make sense. But usually, I would like to be 99.9% of the time, I'm always going to be the highest offer. And it's my fault for not explaining this to the realtor or the seller, because if they don't take my offer, then obviously I didn't do a good job of explaining it. Because why wouldn't you take a subject to deal to get your full ask? Capital gains are stretched out for taxes, which is the biggest thing here, and then a full ask offer. Okay, so that's the main reasons why I would say for a seller to do that. For the buyer, why does the buyer win? Well, you don't have to run your credit, all that stuff, the W-2, apply for it, wait for it. You don't have that. You can get a lower interest rate here too, as the buyer comes in here and takes over the interest rate. Let's say it's at 3%. Dude, you just got that 3% rate for $1,500 a month. So for $1,500 a month, you got 3%. 3%, $1,500 a month. The buyer doesn't have to run their credit. They get a low rate. Usually the time, that's why you're doing this, to capture that low rate, right? Credit, low rate. Again, you could do a rental. So you're renting it out right away. You could do a long-term, we call it LTR. You could do a short-term rental, STR. You could do a midterm rental, which I want to do to help out nurses, doctors, insurance jobs. Your house is flooded. You can come here and get a midterm rental with a contract with the hospital, a contract with the insurance company, and get way more. So the buyer really wins because the credit, the low interest rate, you're not running anything. Now you have to know what you're doing. So for me, I have a TC, a transaction coordinator, who knows all about this stuff, who handle everything. Even as a realtor, I have a transaction coordinator, which are lifesavers. They do everything. They come in here and do all the transaction because they do this all day long, right? This is like years, decades of experience. Then I have an escrow person who specializes in creative finance. I have title. My title specializes in creative finance, right? And I have a servicer. Your servicer, sorry for the scribbles, but the servicer specializes in creative finance. This is all creative finance in a subject to deal. Subject to, again, is not an assuming the loan. It's taking over the loan subject to the mortgage staying in place from the seller. The seller's note stays there. The buyer gets the deed, right? It's in his name to say, hey, I'm paying this person, but in exchange, I get the deed. So they both have 100%, because it's always 100% on both sides have to win. It's no compromise. In a compromise, you're both wearing the left shoes or right shoes, you're walking funny. So you have to, no compromise, 100% this one has to win, 100% this one has to win. A lot of times the seller will say, well, I want a big down, I want a interest rate, I want a high payment, I want you to pay off a balloon payment, I want you, well, it's I want. You, for that full ask, you have to give somebody terms, you have to give something, right? So you work together, because this seller, if you really think about it, the seller is helping the buyer help the seller get out of a situation. The seller is helping the buyer help the seller get out of the situation. You're talking to the mirror, right? It's a mirror report. You're helping yourself. So that's what really briefly subject to is. You could do them anywhere, right? OCCreativefinance@gmail.com. If you have any questions about this is just one creative way out of many I wanted to talk to you really fast. I know this is a long video. Happy Friday. Be safe out there, you guys. I'm Jeffrey Long. Thank you. Reach me at OCCreativefinance@gmail.com. I do other things realtors cannot do. I get creative to get you the most money in your pocket. Thank you.